What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another video here on Ty Drives. My name is Ty behind the camera as always, and this is the 2022 Audi A3 in the Premium Plus trim level with the black optics package. So we have a pretty nice all new A3 for you to look at today. Now throughout this video we're going to take a look at the features on the exterior. Then we're going to work our way under the hood, see what powers the new A3. We're going to check out the cargo area, pop the trunk, then we're going to move forward into the interior, starting with the rear seats and making our way forward to the front seats. But you're going to want to make sure to stay tuned to the end of the video because I'm going to be strapping this GoPro to my head and we're going to do a first-person point of view drive with this thing. And it'll be interesting because I've never driven one of these new A3s yet. So you really get a sort of first impressions for this car with myself anyways. But before we get started, I'd like to thank Valenti Audi of Watertown, Connecticut for providing this car for filming. We're going to get straight into it with the headlamps. So full LED headlamps even for the most basic trim, but the Premium Plus gets you the projector bulbs and full LED turn signals, daytime running lights, everything is LED up here. So that's a little added plus from the Premium Plus rather than the base Premium trim. We have black optic elements such as the little accents around the fog light grills, and the whole grille is also blacked out with the addition of the black Audi rings, which is pretty cool. You also have headlight washers and parking sensors across the front bumper. Very nice sort of sloping hood with some subtle creases towards the center and on the outer edges, and we also have some optional 18-inch alloy wheels, which look pretty good. We have sort of the painted pockets in there, Pirelli tires, and the machined face to the wheel. Taking a look down the side, we have our mirrors here with the LED turn signal indication, and also the blind spot on the inside of the mirror. We have a pretty large sunroof too, as you can see, and we also have smart key entry on all four of the door handles, so you pretty much just tap the little button on the handle to lock and hand behind the handle to unlock. Take a look at the window sticker really quick. You can see that this car stickers for $42,425. We have a couple of included options such as the black optic package, 18-inch wheels, and the blacked out Audi rings and badges, so that's pretty cool. Back here we have the same setup for the tires and wheels, and those tires measure 225/40. Taking a look back here, we have full LEDs. Now really one of the first Audis I've seen in a long time that have a yellow turn signal, but it is a dynamic turn signal, so that looks pretty cool, everything all lit up. We of course have the blacked out badges, the A3 and the Audi rings. Parking sensors back here and hidden exhaust tips, and I think they did a really good job on designing this new A3. What do you guys think about the design of the exterior? Let me know in the comments. Alrighty, so popping the hood, the A3 has a single engine option, and that is besides the S3 and RS3, which we will save for separate videos. However, back to the A3. It is a 2-liter turbocharged inline 4, 201 horsepower, 221 pound-feet of torque. So I'm assuming that's going to be plenty of power, and we'll definitely figure that out in the test drive video when we get an acceleration clip. But pretty tidy engine bay, super easy oil changes. You have the oil dipstick, you still have an oil dipstick, and the engine oil filters right next to it. Now you can choose between front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive in the Quattro style, and of course up here in the Northeast, this is a Quattro car, and regardless of engine choice or drivetrain choice, you will get a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. You also have the hood latch right over there. right, so the trunk pops open nicely for you when you press the button. And there's a pretty good amount of space back here too. I'm pretty surprised. You have some extensions off to the side with a little 12-volt power outlet. Your seats fold 40-20-40. And you also have these pretty cool little grocery bag hangers that come down from the top there. You can see all weather floor mats, cargo nets, all that good stuff back here. If you lift up the cargo floor, you have a donut-sized spare tire, so that's pretty cool. And you could close the trunk right on down with this little handle here. Very nice solid sound to the trunk when you close it too. Now we can get into the interior, starting with the rear seats. So not too bad back here, and I sat back here just for a minute to check out everything, and pretty good amount of legroom. Just so when we get in, you know, I set up the front seat to a normal driving position for myself, and I am 5'10", so just keep that in mind for the legroom when we get in. But pretty nice materials up here. So we have hard to the touch materials down here and up on the top, but where it counts is nice and soft. And you also get a pretty cool sort of cross thread for the stitching, so that's nice. Pretty cool door handles too. Nice design for the seats, and you get real leather with the contrast stitching. And you can also see the little handle right next to the headrest where you can fold down the seats. As you can see, they fold down pretty much flat. Very nice. And you also have a center armrest that folds down with a couple of cup holders. And when you're not using the cup holders, you can kind of squeeze someone in the center there. But hopping in, it's really pretty roomy back here for an A3. So a couple inches of legroom there. I'd say about at least a solid inch, maybe 2 inches of legroom. We also have some amenities back here, a sort of a heat controller, or if you want cold air blowing. You definitely want heat blowing nowadays. It's a pretty chilly, I'd say about 20 degrees here in Connecticut today. But you also get some air vents and a couple of USB-C chargers. And again, you can fit somebody in the center if they are small enough. There is a third seat belt back here. You have grab handles, LED lights, and a very, very good looking dashboard on the interior here. So at this point, we can hop out of the back and hop into the front. So the design remains pretty much the same for the front doors as the rear, but the materials are a little bit nicer. So you now have a soft to the touch upper door panel. If you like to drive with your elbow resting on the upper door panel like I do, that helps. You have 2-person memory. That is very nice as well to have. And you also have individual child locks, heated and folding mirrors as well. And you also have the trunk release and a little bit of storage down here. On the left of the dash, we have these pretty cool air vents to the left and the right of the steering wheel. We have our lighting controls, the rear fog lights and front fog lights. Taking a look down here, you can see the little release for the tilt telescoping steering wheel. And you also have a pretty decent sized change pouch, or whatever you need to store. You have the hood release over here and pedals over there. Quite the nice seat. So you have the leather in the center, but you also have this sort of suede material that goes up and around on the backrest. 4-way lumbar and all your regular seat controls as well. So pretty impressive so far. Let's hop in and check out the rest. Alright, so here is the key for the new A3. You have the lock, unlock, trunk release, and panic alarm on the back. You also have this little button to slide out the physical key within the inside. Of course, it has push button start, and the button's right over here. And when you press the button, the engine starts. Now, this is a mild hybrid car, so it actually has a small electric sort of alternator, I guess, that sometimes will turn the engine over, so sometimes you won't hear a sort of cranking of a starter. The vehicle just simply turns on, and that's what happened this time. However, we can start off the interior with the steering wheel. Very nice, typical shape to the Audi wheel. We have all of the controls for the digital gauge cluster. Then we also have a programmable button, so there's different presets within the infotainment where you can program different functions to that button there. You have a skipping for your audio tracks and radio stations. Then also a nice little scroll wheel for the audio volume, your voice commands, and Bluetooth controls as well. You also have these nice little paddle shifters on the back of the steering wheel, and they are mounted to the wheel. I have a couple of stalks behind the steering wheel, one of course for your turn signals, automatic high beams, and to turn off your lane keeping assist. We also have a devoted stalk here for the adaptive cruise control, which is very nice to have, and one other to the other side for the wipers, of course. Now, this is not the full digital cockpit that Audi offers, but it is a full digital display, so you can't see like the navigation or anything because this car isn't equipped with it, but this does have a very nice digital gauge cluster. And we're going to use these buttons over here, like we talked about earlier, to configure what we see in the display. So we kind of scroll down, get some average and real-time consumption ratings, a short and long-term memory for the kind of trip A, trip Bs, an energy consumption screen, and your driver's assistance screen too. So that's pretty cool, and we'll leave that up during the test drive so we can see the lane keep assist and all that stuff. We can also use the squirrel wheels to get some more information like the audio and what's going on with your phone. And then you can also press the view button just to kind of simplify the gauge cluster in there, and then you get the odometer and sort of some trip readings there. But you have the coolant temp off to the other side and the gas gauge there too. It's a pretty nice looking digital gauges up here. On the upper dash is a nice soft to the touch material, and you have that pretty cool cross-threaded stitching up there. And that brings me down to the infotainment screen. So pretty much the same sort of touchscreen infotainment that Audi's been switching over to in the past couple of years. Very nice, easy to get used to. You also have a couple of different options for your home screen, so you kind of get a little jumbulation of what your radio's telephone and your navigation is doing. Of course, you have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto that comes with this car as well. Give you a quick look at the radio screen. You have all of your stations, so you could change the source over here. We also have the media, phone, and navigation screens. The phone app has to do with the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, so you just click that when you plug in your phone. We have the vehicle screen here, which will pop up with a bunch of different things, such as the lighting and visibility, parking aid, driver's assistance, so you can kind of see what sort of driver's assistance screen systems we are working with on this vehicle. And there is quite a few, which is pretty cool. We'll get to the drive modes in just a minute. We also have the settings over here, so we have the general settings for the system. Then we have sound settings. Quite a bit of customization there. And just various other things like connected devices for the Bluetooth and things like that. You can also swipe over, set up different users, and set up things for your calendars, and also purchase different apps. So pretty cool system, very easy to get used to, and you also have sort of garage door openers within your screen there. Taking a look down below, we have an all-new climate control, which I really like the look of. Just a couple of buttons and a nice screen up top. So we have the auto sync buttons, the heated seats to either side. as well as these little toggle switches here for the temperatures. Pretty neat. The fan speed, the AC settings, and kind of where you want the air to blow. So that's pretty cool. And you also have a passenger side temperature, the defrosters. You have a small array of buttons over here, such as the drive select, so we'll see what kind of driving modes we have, a comfort, auto, dynamic, and individual. And you can customize a couple of things in the individual mode, which is pretty cool. And during the test drive, we're going to switch between comfort and dynamic, so we'll get a good feel for those two driving modes. Traction control, auto start stop on and off. We have the four-way hazards. We also have the parking sensors and the parking camera, so we can bring that up at any point. And this car also has auto parking, so in addition to the regular parking sensors, it also has parking sensors on the sides of the bumpers, front and rear, to detect objects when you're parallel parking. They give you a nice little storage tray in here, which also has a wireless phone charger and a couple of USB-C inlets. And take a look down here. Look at that gear selector. I think that's pretty cool. A lot of people have had some mixed ideas about it, but I think it's a pretty cool idea. And it also frees up a lot of space. You don't have this big ugly gear selector sticking up, so I think that's a pretty cool element. New volume knob too, so you kind of just move your finger around the circle like so, and it actually works pretty good. So I can't even knock that either. I was gonna say, you know, why don't you just use a regular volume knob, but it actually works pretty good. And you can also skip between different tracks, turn it off, and kind of a mute button. So I'll show you how this shifter works. It's pretty much just like in sort of the new Porsche models or even the new GTI. You kind of just push forward like so for reverse. You get the reversing camera and the parking sensors pop up. And if you turn the wheel, the guidance lines also adjust to predict your path. And you kind of have neutral is half a click, and then all the way down is another click, and that's sort of your drive. And then if you go down again, you have the sort of sport transmission mode there. To put it in the park, you just press the little P right there. And as you can see, the mild hybrid setup has shut the gasoline engine off, but I'm still nice and warm in here. The heat is still going, and all the accessories are still powered, so that's pretty cool addition of the mild hybrid setup. You have an electronic parking brake. Press down to deactivate, pick it up to activate. Then you also have a little 12-volt power outlet, little place right there to put your key, and then you have a couple of cup holders, nice little storage console when you lift that up. Let's see, you have just a little bit of storage in there. It also slides back and forth. Very nice little area for the passenger to look at. A little bit of sort of a painted sort of metal look trim right there, and pretty cool looking air vents. Also open the lockable glove box. See, it's felt inside, and there's a pretty good amount of space. And they also give you this pretty cool little Audi safety vest. So if you're on the side of the road changing your tire, put that safety vest on and you'll be good to go. Taking a look up top, we have an auto dimming frameless and compass mirror. We also have a couple of LED touch lights up here, lighting controls, and also some SOS and emergency buttons up here, as well as your sunroof. So this fabric sunshade, and once you put it back, it's a pretty good size sunroof. And just looking up here is quite a bit of headroom too. And you kind of just use this slider to put the sunroof back, and put it forward to put the sunroof forwards, and then also press up to tilt. So that's pretty cool. A couple of other things worth mentioning. You have visors to either side with a mirror and light, and you also have grab handles for all 4 passengers. So at this point, I think you get a pretty good idea of all the features on this new A3. Let's get this thing out on the road and see how it drives. Alrighty, let's go for a quick spin in the all-new A3. So on this drive, we are going to be taking this for a little drive, of course, get a good feel for this car. It's the first time I've driven this new A3, so it'll be a good first impressions for the both of us. And throughout this drive, we're going to take it down to this dead end over here, and we're going to see what this turning circle is like. We're then going to get it out onto a sort of main road to a highway. We'll get it up to about 45-50 miles an hour, hopefully. And we'll see what it's like at that speed, see what the tire noise, wind noise, things like that are, comfortable with the suspension. And finally, we'll get it out onto the back road. And the beginning of the back road I'm going to take you on has a nice straightaway. So that will really get to show us what the acceleration is like, if this car's got enough power, and which it should. And then we'll get up to some sort of twisties in the road, really sort of bumpy section of the road as well, so we'll get to test out the handling and suspension for sure. Now I'm going to leave the start-stop system on in this car, and it's actually very intuitive. Just kind of driving around in the parking lot, you really wouldn't even know that it's active if you didn't hear that the engine has shut off. It's really quite the seamless system. Now, looking at the horsepower and torque ratings with this car, it really puts it in line with the same engine that's in the base A4, so the 40 TFSI powertrain. And that's a good thing, because that's a pretty good motor, and it's pretty strong in the A4, and this being a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter car, that should do this car a pretty good justice. Now that we're cruising around 48 miles an hour, I could say that there is pretty quiet in here. A little bit of tire noise, virtually no wind noise though, so that's pretty cool. I'd imagine if you get the smaller 17-inch wheels, the sort of base wheel setup on this car, you get a little bit less tire noise. And we're starting this drive off in comfort. I'm pretty sure you've seen that throughout our drive so far. But at this point, we're going to turn onto our back road here, and we'll drop it into dynamic, and so we could test out the acceleration, see what kind of power we're working with here. So we're going to get up to about 25 miles an hour, mash the throttle, and see what the transmission does. Yeah, so this does have a pretty good amount of power. Not bad at all. So we'll just drop it back down into the regular driving mode for the transmission, so it's not revving out so high. But as you saw, in the sport transmission mode, it definitely holds the gears longer, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, so we're working with 201 horsepower, a little over 220 pound-feet of torque. So this is a pretty peppy little car. Now, this is a really great road to sort of show off a part of New England here. Just sort of this backcountry road that's not taken care of too well, so there are some bumps, but that's a good thing for our videoing purposes, so that I get to display sort of what the suspension feels like as best as I can. And so far, it's pretty good over the bumps. It's sort of at the most bumpy section. I'll switch it over to comfort again and see if that makes any difference. I can tell you a difference between the comfort and dynamic modes are the steering feel. So it does weighten up a little bit in dynamic, which is pretty nice. And it's a really nice weight when it's in comfort, so it's not sort of too light or anything like that. It's still got a feel to it. Now the roads are pretty sandy, so I'm not going to push it too much through these corners, but we will get a little bit of a feel for how this takes the turns. It's really not too bad. The corner's pretty flat. The suspension stays nice and level. And I'm sure once you start to push this vehicle, of course it is a front-wheel drive based all-wheel drive system, so it will start to push in a corner a little bit if you push it too hard. At this point, we're going to turn it back over to comfort because it is the bumpiest section of the road. So really not too bad at all, not jarring or going over those bumps. It's just a pretty smooth ride. You can tell that it is more of a sporty ride, and you can also tell it's a smaller car because you get a little bit of the dips and weaves and things like that. But that's just the nature of a smaller car. So no surprises there with the suspension. You know, it kind of handles and rides just how I was expecting it to. So that's pretty good. And as in comparison with the old A3, it's pretty similar as far as power goes and the handling and suspension. So if you have an older A3, then you'll be right at home with this car. Just far better technology and sort of materials on the inside, and I think overall design too. Now, sitting in these seats for a little bit, they're definitely pretty comfortable, and there's a pretty good range of motion for moving the seat around to get your perfect sort of seating position. So the front of the seat actually lifts up and down, so that's good for sort of thigh support. Then you also have the four-way lumbar, as I said before, and the headrests also tilt back and forth, so that's pretty nice as well. So if you're in the car for a long time, you probably won't find this seat to be too bad. Now, one thing that I wish this car had, and I'm not even sure if the A3 comes, you can even get the A3 with it, is a heated steering wheel. Because on days like today, it's 28 degrees. You know, the past week, it's probably been even colder than that. I'm really wishing I had one right now with this car. So, making our way back into our little filming studio, so to say here. What are my wrap-up thoughts on the all-new A3? I really like this car. I'm coming from a Jetta GLI. It's pretty similar in terms of the driving experience. I think my Jetta rode a little bit better, but this car definitely has design on its side. And again, in terms of driving experiences, it's really no surprises. It's kind of just as I would expect it to be, which is a good thing. And it does feel quite a bit more like an Audi than the old A3 did. Definitely a better driving car than the Q3 if you're shopping, cross-shopping these two, which I know some people do. So if you're looking for a driver's car, Q3 isn't the best. Definitely go for the A3 if you don't have too big of a family. You're not transporting all that much goods in the trunk. But overall, great design, beautiful new car, and I definitely recommend it. I really like this sort of smaller segment of car, if you don't have a big family and things like that, like I said before. But if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe for future videos just like this one on all different kinds of cars. Thanks for watching.